Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch You Want, and thanks for logging on. Friday the 13th strikes again, but we are back up and running, guys. Welcome all, and welcome Jason Mane. For those of you just joining us, Jason is watch buyer with Watch You Want Gothberg. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you. Good to be back.
And I want to remind you guys, Watch You Want Watch Reviews, the hardware store open 7/24 regardless of tech problems, is my watch review channel where I do my old style 5 to 7 minute quick hits. You can see some great hardware going up, full platinum AP Royal Oak, a couple of Tourbillon watches, and some Exotica from Independence this weekend, so stay tuned. Although Jason does sell watches, he's also a watch buyer, so I want to emphasize, Jason, what's the best place to sell your watch, and who's the best person to call?
WatchYouWant.com, Gothberg. Call me before anybody else.
And that's his number right on the screen, guys. If you've got a watch, it may be the watch we want, so ring us up 24/7. He's required to answer his phone.
You can try.
All right, so this or that, guys. Let's play this or that Green with Envy edition for Friday the 13th. All right, guys, welcome in our chat box. Yes, we are back up and running after some tech problems. In the end, we had a dead battery, the year 2017 going on 2018, and that bunny is still relevant. But Jason, you have to choose not between pink, but between green. The Rolex Submariner 116610V, so the Hulk, and the recently released Panerai Radomir 8 Days Titanio PAM 735 boutique exclusive. Let me give you guys a quick rundown, and then Jason's going to explain his reasoning. The Rolex has been around since 2010, and it's now a classic. 40mm stainless steel super case, full bracelet, and a glide lock clasp. It's got a 3135 chronometer inside, 300 meters water resistant with a scratch resistant green Serichrome bezel, and a spectacular green gold sunburst dial made in-house by Rolex. It's a sub $10,000 watch in steel that has a wait list, and at least in theory, Jason, it's $9,050. So, a watch we love to buy, I must say, and I think we're buying those close to retail right now.
Yeah, they're pretty hot right now.
Yeah, so if you ever wanted to wear it, enjoy it, and then sell it for no loss, sell us your Hulk right now, guys. The alternative is the Panerai Pam 735. Now, Jason, you're a Panerai guy. This is the first green dial Panerai from outside the Bronzo family, 45mm satin titanium, and it's a wire lug Radomir case. It's not the 1940, 100 meters water resistant, so throw it on rubber or textile, you're good to swim. A rare horology win for Panerai in a this or that. The caliber 2002-9 is an 8-day power reserve manually wound in-house with a case-back power reserve indicator, beautifully made, free-sprung with a full balance bridge. It's as tough as the Rolex, but unlike the Rolex caliber, you can see it. Panerai boutique exclusive, $12,100 retail. Explain to me, which one of these do you pick?
So, first I will go off and say my decision is going to be the Panerai. Okay.
I like it.
Yeah. So, while neither of these would be my ideal picks, if I'm going watch for watch, I love the Submariner. In particular, I want a 114060 for myself. I love the non-date, but I like the standard Submariner. The green is cool. I feel like it's the type of green that would eventually see its way out of my collection. It's not necessarily an everyday green. And then the Radomir itself, I like the 1940s case Radomir better than a wired lug Radomir. You know, even though the wired lug's essentially the first Panerai, it's, you know, it's the truest thing to form. This green against that satin titanium is stellar. And then the fact that you have the, you know, the exhibition case back, power reserve indicator, I think total package that this Panerai for me wins the show, with the Rolex being an honorable mention. I would wear it for like 3 months and then I'd probably get tired of that green, in my opinion.
I appreciate that, and there's something to be said for the sort of olive drab green of the Panerai with the rose gold hands. It's really elegant, and I appreciate that you opted for the one you would buy to own and not buy to sell.
Sure.
Really nice piece, guys. So I want to call out those of you who have stuck with us and joined us in our chat box. We had some tech issues that forced us to go off air for a little bit. Invader, Andre, Lewis, Philip, Sebastian, Tom P. I want to thank all you guys. Nader, welcome back. Captain Zed, Craig, Tom, thank you so much for joining us once again. Let's rewind and go back to our wrist shots. Jason, so you are Paneristi. What are you wearing today?
So this is my 510. I've had this watch for a couple months. It's seen quite a bit of wrist time, a couple different straps, such as Panerai fashion. And the thing I like about the 510 is you get the 8-day in-house movement. You get all the, the love and homage to the 111, but kind of the modern machine. And it's 44 millimeter. It's a good everyday wear and steel.
All right, and I'm wearing my Dualmet chronograph. White gold, 42 millimeters. It's a watch that I waited quite a few years to buy. A longtime grail finally realized proof that dreams do come true. 4 dial, 2 movements, chronograph. Actually has a digital minute scale on the chronograph dial, but a beautiful watch. As I like to say, 2 watches, 1 heartbeat, a single case. A limited edition at 200. But Jason, since they've seen these watches before, show us the other hardware that you brought tonight from your other collection.
Sure. So the first collection of my life. This is a custom David Moser. This is a one-of-one. This model in particular is called the Burning Horizon. So it's one of his earlier pieces, and features a 2-tone blade with his signature acid wash, tiger stripe acid wash. So this is a 6.4 LV titanium frame lock and CPM 154. Just a nice flipper, good everyday watch.
All right, so as they say, piece unique in horology, and quite a unique piece at that. So we've played this or that, and it's kind of leading into a theme for the show tonight. Friday the 13th, superstitious, I don't know, I'm not, but we've had some tech issues so far. I still say it's my lucky number, 13. And we are going to be talking about green watches tonight, because green watches, I think we both agree, are now officially a thing.
Yeah, green's cool.
Green is in case you missed. Okay, new watches though. 2 smaller sizes from Vacheron Constantin debuting this week. We see the 1921 American Small. So the American 1921 now in a new unisex size. Now this is a watch that came out in 2008 around the height of the oversized dress watch craze. And at 40 millimeters, it was a big block of gold on the wrist. Downsizing to 36.5 millimeters, this is perhaps a more manageable size. Vacheron differentiates between the male and female applications of this particular case by changing the strap up. I think it looks great on any wrist, and I'm happy to see a more wearable version of the American that's actually a little closer to the original 1921 and 1919 prototypes. In keeping with the general pullback from size, but it's able to keep the same manual wind Geneva hallmark caliber 4400. So it's the same caliber 4400 inside the 36.5 that you get inside the full-size version. $29,200 US, still in rose gold. Another smaller Vacheron, the Patrimony Small, also rose gold, now 36 millimeters. Down from the original 40 millimeter. The size between the two, it's subtle, but it's effective. There was maybe just a little too much austere dial on the full-size model. That model came out in 2004. Again, during the 2000s, really big dress watches were the thing. Vacheron getting a little bit closer to tradition with 36. I think this enjoys better proportions than the 40 millimeter, and it looks more complete. Just looks more appropriate to the dress application. Still a premium price, however, $25,500 US, and I think you're actually getting more with the less. Okay, new brand, new watches. Surprisingly accessible prices. Guys, this one kind of caught me unawares, and I haven't heard much said about it this week in the magazines, and that includes the online versions, but Reservoir Watches. Swiss-made, a French company. It's conceptually sort of like a mini Bell & Ross, which is Paris-based and manufactures in Switzerland. But founded in late 2015, launched at Basel this year under CEO Francois Moreau. This is a company that draws upon cars, aircraft, and nautical vehicles, sailboats, submarines, and ships, to create 3 model lines built around jump hours, retrogrades, power reserves, and some of these even have date windows. And the amazing thing is that they give you all that for about $37, I should say, to $3,900, which is impressive. Now, their handsome automotive cues, I think, comprise the most appealing model line in the catalog. So of the 3, I think the autos work best in transition to the watch gauge format, but there are sharp variations even from that. That one's called the Supercharged Classic, and I think it's fantastic. I think this is a fantastic sub $4,000 version of what you would have paid 3 times that amount to get from Gerald Genta during the mid-2000s. I think all variations look good, to be perfectly honest, and right there is one of the marine variants inspired by ships and ocean-going vessels. I would say for a independent watch brand and sort of a micro brand concept, the miss rate is shockingly low. These brands often try far too hard and create these overwrought novelties, seeking attention. Here, I would say, although some dials are quirkier than others, overall, they work really well. That's one of the aviation style dials. So Jason, 43mm stainless steel with or without PVD, automatic and real ETA movements with a jump hour module they commissioned exclusively for themselves from a movement engineer. For $3,700 to $3,900 with a full clasp and a deployant, it seems like a lot of watch for the money.
Yeah, listen, I mean, so I hadn't really heard of the brand either. I just recently started looking into them. I think, you know, they're handsome watches, and they do really well to bring in some of the automotive cues and some of the stuff that really speaks to a lot of our guys, our collectors. So anything that's, you know, watches, planes, boats, stuff that's fast and has engines, right? They're attractive looking. I think you get a lot of bang for your buck. You have a unique ability to step into something that's a little bit higher horology than maybe something you normally spend $2 to $3 grand on. You get some cool complications, and you get some pieces that have, you know, they're not grand complications, but to get a jump hour, a power reserve, and a date in a watch under $4 grand, it's, yeah, I mean, I think it's, listen, am I going to spend $4 grand on the watch? Probably not. I think it's very interesting at that price point. If you're the type of guy that wants to have the first of your friends, if you want to, you know, try and find something that's cool and introduce it into a group of people, forum guys, those type of guys, I could see this brand doing really well.
Yeah, it's not like they stuck a Solita or even like a Miyota or a Chinese movement in there. They actually went out and they bought a real base CTA caliber, and I admire that. So, you know, I can't say where their cases or their crystals or their clasps are made. I'm sure there is some sort of supplier selection factoring into that price point, but I will say that it's a very ambitious and aesthetically successful effort from someone none of us have heard of. I think this is the most interesting new watch and new watch brand since Ming popped up a few months ago. All right, so some questions coming in from the live chat. Let me see how many of these I can tackle popcorn style. Okay, question from Funk O Hunter. I wonder if Tim would wear a Citizen. I would absolutely wear a Citizen Campanola Grand Complication. I think they're beautifully made. Some of the Swiss series watches are also equally appealing. I would also throw out that someone asked what I think, oh, Thomas Betros, hello from Houston, go Stros. I'm conflicted, I'm a Yankees fan right there. Also want to answer Edward Layden. Tim, what do you think of Resonance? I think that they are the most interesting independent out there at the moment. I think that is the most worthwhile and different take on independent horology, and the prices are quite reasonable. Plus, I know for a fact they ride their bikes to work at their Belgian headquarters, and I appreciate that. For me, the iconic Resonance and the only one to buy is a member of the Type 3 family. If you gotta play hard and play rough, go with the Type 5, but you've got to get the oil-filled dial. Also, question, guys, what do you think people should get under the $200 price point? Jason?
That's tough. There's some good stuff there. I think looking for pre-owned Hamilton is probably a good bet. You can have some older Longines in that price range too if you don't mind going vintage. I would say maybe save up, get to like the $350, $400 mark. Have some stuff that's a little bit more accessible. But for that price point, I think Hamilton's probably one of the stronger bets for.
I'm going to say if you want to buy new, Swatch System 51. It's about as good as it gets.
Yeah.
That's a fun watch, and it leaves some money down the road. Not for a service, but maybe a couple of different silicone straps to accessorize. That's a fun watch. Josh and I both picked up Swatches when we were in Geneva with Jorn. I would also say, sub 200, you can find a surprising number of old American pocket watches, so don't discount that. That's a real watch for sub 200. I mean, that's something older than your grandpa that'll outlive you, and definitely worth considering, if only for the eccentricity. But impressive stuff available in that price range. Okay, so other questions coming through tonight. This is from Mash Ala Kali, should I get a sub no date ceramic or date non-ceramic?
I personally, as I already, I want for myself, my private collection, a 114060. So for many, many years, I've contemplated getting a Submariner, and I've just always felt they were kind of a little small for my wrist. But lately,
that's no date, no ceramic. Just
right,
to be clear.
No ceramic. So the new 114060 in ceramic, not new, but newer. to me, with that case, sits a little bit better on the wrist, and so I will be adding one of those to my collection eventually, sometime soon in the next couple months. But I would hands down go with a non-date sub in any variety over a date, in my opinion. Okay, very cool. So that would be the call from the expert who has owned far more watches than I have. I tend to be mono-brand and very narrow. Jason's has more of like a Catholic collecting worldview. Okay, guys, so we're entering into kind of the subtext of tonight's show. The Hamilton, this is a new watch, Hamilton Panerai Automatic. Vintage inspired. We first saw the chronograph version in 2011. We saw the blue version in 2014. And now with the metallic green sunburst style dial, we get 42mm stainless steel with the H80 80-hour automatic and unidirectional bezel. This is a watch delivered on a black leather vintage style strap that actually has a green underlay, as well as an accessory NATO in green with a strap tool. All of this for $1,195 US. Honestly, Jason, I can't imagine, for under $1,200 US, I can't imagine picking a 7 Friday or any micro brand over this. This is a serviceable lifetime product. Yeah, I would agree. I like, I've already stated I like Hamilton a lot. I've sold a tremendous amount of Hamiltons in my career with watches. I think there's very few brands that give you what you get for the type of money from Hamilton. The Pan Europe specifically, so in 2011 when it came out in a black chronograph, on that strap, in a limited edition, I almost pulled the trigger. I almost did, and then I didn't, and then a month later you couldn't find them anywhere, and they were going for crazy money on eBay. Then with the relaunch in the blue, I thought, okay, this is the time, I'm gonna grab one. I really like the watch, and the blue just didn't do it for me at the time. Didn't care for the hue that they used. I like this green. I think it's really nice, and if the only piece that I would put up against this, same kind of budget, would be the Oris 65 Diver. In the 42mm, they have a new green dial, which is really nice. That's coming. If you're looking at this, you might want to look at that. I will say the Oris is probably a good solid $1,000 more than this. I will say that having held both of them in the hand, you do feel the price difference with the Oris. The Hamilton's a nice product. I think the Oris is just a little bit nicer. But both worthy choices. And again, for the price of like a 7 Friday, why wouldn't you go with this? It's more serviceable, more substantial, and it'll last. And it looks better. Yeah, I think it looks a lot better. Sometimes vintage style does pay. I'm not necessarily a fan of retro watches or tribute watches. This feels enough like its own thing with the coloration that it doesn't feel like a pander to me. It feels like something new and fresh. Okay, so let's jump from there into our discussion point, which is the question, are green watches becoming a thing? Jason? I think we're starting to see a lot of brands look for the next blue or the next gray. But yeah, I think green is coming on strong. I don't know that it's going to be everywhere so quickly, but probably the next 6 months or a year, you're going to see green become the next dial. Especially with brands like Panerai really pushing that concept. Hopefully not too much. We don't want to get too much overpopulation from a specific brand, but I can see other brands jumping on board. Yeah, this is an interesting trend because like Jason said earlier, and I think he really made an important point distinguishing between sort of novelty greens that are maybe super vivid, super bright, there to catch your attention, and greens that could stand the test of time. Like when you think of the green dial on the original PAM 382 Bronzo, it fit the beautiful bronze. It looked nautical. It looked like it paid tribute to Panerai's military origins, but it also looked like the aged fixtures in bronze, like almost what the case would become in the future. And so it looked really good, it was synergistic, and it's still just as appealing now 6 years later. So the green watch trend, let's kind of trace where it goes from here, but let's look back first to see how we got here. Green dials are not new. It's not a new thing. We've seen them periodically in the past, especially from Rolex. The reference 1803 Stella dials from the 70s were the first time we saw them in any kind of volume from a major maker, especially with that vivid green and lacquer. Now, we saw a handful during the mid-2000s, like the Jaeger LeCoultre Amvox R-Alarm, the bigger 44mm with yellow accents and a green dial and a green strap. And we saw one from Gerald Genta occasionally. Gerald Genta, of course, playful, colorful, really trying to make its mark with a sort of, I would say, almost Dadaist
watch aesthetic during the 2000s, and from IWC, of course. There was also the occasional retailer special. That's the Boris Becker chronograph. That's the Zegan Cerlati Big Pilot. And then, of course, Rolex, arguably the green stalwart, launched the Hulk, a follow-up to its previous green Submariner in 2010. But then in 2014, and I don't know if this was a trendsetter or if it was just first impression, but FP Journe launched the Jade Tourbillon, which I saw being made in Geneva a week ago, and it's just as impressive today as it was back then. And this seemed to be the vanguard of an actual trend. In 2015, Jaeger LeCoultre launched the Grande Reverso Tribute to 1931 London, 26 pieces that went nuclear on the secondary market. I've only ever seen one come up pre-owned, and it was for $100,000. The watch cost about a tenth of that, maybe less when it was new. Okay, now something is for real, and it's gathering like a storm. You mentioned Oris in green. In 2016, we saw a host of new green dials from Rolex. The Daytona, the Date 840, the Oyster Perpetual, more than usual for them. And Oris Divers 65 in green for under $2,500 US, like Jason mentioned, is a compelling and somewhat trendy new offering that I feel is going to stand the test of time because, like you said, that's kind of a forever green, not a novelty green.
Yeah, exactly. I think the thing that's important with green dials, too, is there's so much gradation. It's just like blue. There's so many places that different brands can go that you don't have to copy the same color. So, you know, there's only so much white or so much silver, so much black, but colors that have a rich palette like that, like blue, green has that versatility. So anywhere from like the Jade Jorn.
Yes.
It's a very, you know, the jade's beautiful. It's a very pale green, all the way to like the darkest, richest greens. There's such scale there to play with that I think we're in for. Yeah, I think we're in for a ride. You know.
I think it's interesting that you called it the new blue. Are we just? I mean, I guess I could say this year we've seen the 2017 Panerai Boutique series that we mentioned, the 735, 736, 737. And at the opposite end of the price spectrum, we saw the Hamilton Panerai for under $1,200. And in the middle, there would be something like the new Reverso Classic Large with the marble dial in green. Are we just living in a colorful era of watches? Like, we've also seen oranges, we've seen yellow. Is that just like the thing now, or is it going to run its course eventually?
I mean, you're always going to have your tried and true classics. You know, everybody needs a black dress watch. Everybody needs a black sports watch. But I think what we're running into is you're getting guys that are collecting, getting guys that are buying versatility. So when you're buying versatility, you want something different.
True.
And, you know, if you're buying a sports watch, you want something fun, why not grab that AP diver that's yellow? You know, why not grab something that's going to really stand out on the wrist? You know, would it be my only watch, something like bright and colorful? Probably not. But that's the fun of having diversity.
That's a good point. Is there any particular reason other than the fact that it's a Rolex, why the Hulk, you know, the Submariner V, why that has been so enduring? I mean, that's now 7 model years. It's not fading. It's actually getting stronger.
Yeah. Any particular reason? No. I mean, it's a Submariner. It's stainless steel. It's a you know, very sought after sport model watch that Rolex seems to not ship very often. They are hard to find at retail. So anytime something becomes scarce on retail level, the secondary market bumps up on it. And then, you know, when your friend can't get one and you can, you're willing to pay a little bit more. You see the market jump up a little bit. And then what happens is people start seeing watches selling for way over retail. And then they have one that they bought for retail. Why not sell it? And, you know,
snowball.
it's a cycle.
And as winter approaches, that's an appropriate analogy. I'd say right here, this is a case of being in the right place at the right time with the Hulk. Rolex, with an existing green reference, suddenly runs into a market where green is suddenly hot, having constrained supply over the years and always built fewer of the green subs than, let's be honest, the conventional black ceramic. All of a sudden, this watch became a commodity and a tradable one at that. I would ask, what colors would you like to see next, since we are in the era of the colorful watch?
You know what? It's kind of a weird color, but I like brown.
Okay.
Brown dial, you don't see them too much. I think it's also there's a large gradation scale in brown as well. I think that's a great piece. I like cream color dials, so if you're going to go that brown route, like a very beige, pale beige, green, brown, or cream color, you know, there's a lot of ways to go. I mean, do you have any specific colors that you have coming?
I mean, I'll be honest. One thing I haven't seen a lot of it is orange. I mean, there are some color laws. You know, in the world of automobiles, you're never going to see a pink Ferrari. In the world of watches, you rarely see an orange watch. Although Omega is, I would say, skirting outright orange with the big blue Planet Ocean. They've got an awful lot of orange on that watch. That's something I would like to see. And it's something I would like to see outside the Doxa product line. I think that would be fun. I'm all about novelty, and I'm a little bit crazy. So, again, I'm the kind of person who would buy one of those crazy watches to keep. So, orange, I'd like to see that. I will say this. This is my pro tip, guys. If you missed the boat on the London Boutique Edition Grande Reverso fans, grab the Kuwait Edition. The Kuwait Liberation limited edition of 55 pieces. There's also a rose gold one. Before the rest of the world realizes that this is a thing that exists, they're out there. Go for it. Green metallic dial on a Grande Reverso. Very cool. Okay. New watches continued, guys. Let's take a quick look at our chat box real quick. Thumper JDM has a Iwc Engineer Amg that Jason sold to him.
Yes, I did. That's a beautiful piece. I did not want to ship that watch. I wanted to leave it on my wrist. That has a beautiful chocolate brown dial on a black ceramic case.
Iwc does great brown dials,
yeah,
between that and also the Antoine de Saint-Exupéry pieces.
I actually sold another Iwc this today, and I was referencing this AMG piece because it also had a brown dial, but I think you might have got the better piece. So,
I also want to give a quick shout out to MR Michael. Welcome. He's mentioning that the last Hulk he saw in Toronto this month was 8,500, and your dollar is less than the euro right now. 8,500 Canadian apparently buys a Hulk in Canada right now. I see Invaders with us, Sasso, JBO Surf, mentioning the new Holland and Holland from FP Journe. We're going to hit that, so stay tuned. Don't touch that dial. I see Vishal is joining us. Breitling Heritage Orange Copper Color. Of course, that's also out there. George Kern actually going to be visiting our offices on Monday. Watch our Instagram for that one. And of course, I noticed Tom Pattinson mentioning a blue steel sub as something he would like to see. That would be very cool, but I think they're going to defend the honor of the white gold's blue at least until the next model generation. Just like with the Pepsi and white gold and GMT, I think they're going to wait until the next model generation to roll that out in a steel watch, just because so many people paid so much for the white gold variants. Okay, so new watches continued, Jason. Can you guess what the theme is?
It's going to be green.
I think it's going to be right. Okay, so more green watches, naturally. I owe a little apology to Oris. On the show Wednesday with Brian, I was holding out an Oris 1917, and I actually mistook it for a Longines, and I made a swatch group quick. Yeah, I need to look before I hold, especially before I do a showcase shot. So Oris, big apology, but a shout out for your Oris Big Crown, the incomprehensibly named D26 286 HB-RAG, a big name for a simple watch and a reasonable 40mm stainless steel case. This is a great piece for Oris, first because it channels the history. This is a big crown of a different aesthetic, more heritage inspired, with a beautiful coined bezel. What really sets this one apart is the combination of cream-colored luminescence in cathedral hands, that green dial, which I think will stand the test of time in this tone, and the radial date indicator, which has been an Oris signature since 1938. I really like this watch. Dedicated to Oris's preservation project associated with older aircraft, this one paying direct tribute to a 1931 French de Watine monoplane, and that is being restored using funds from Oris. This is a limited edition, appropriately enough, of 1,931 pieces, with the image of the namesake aircraft engraved on the case back. And again, Oris with the pricing, always doing right by its customers, $2,200. I think this is a good buy. Jason, is that green one that you think will stand the test of time?
Absolutely. It's a green. I mean, that's a piece I'd wear. I'd add that to my collection. Oris as a brand, I think usually hits the mark. They put out a great product for the money. And besides maybe some of the really large 46mm Aquises that I feel kind of go after a different market, I really like their attempt at most of the vintage pieces, the BC4s in particular, are really nice. They do a lot of like date 8 retrogrades and stuff like that, which are nice to get some complication. And their coin edge bezels are classic.
Yeah, very nicely done. I'll also say I finally had a chance to put my hands on an Oris Artelier 10-day power reserve piece from the flagship line. I was very impressed both by the feature set and the quality in the hand. I'm going to have some more reviews of those on Watch You Want Watch Reviews, my other channel. Also, I want to give a shout out to a brand I love and a color I crave. This seems like a marriage made in heaven, or more likely Japan. Grande Seiko High Beat GMT. This is the SBGJ 227 limited edition of 700 pieces, and I have to say, this is about as sexy as a sub $7,000 watch gets. A follow-up to the 200-piece Blink and You'll Miss It SBGA 365 for Japanese department store Daimaru. This new High Beat GMT has superb dial detail. I mean, this is as good as a textured and colorized dial gets. You get those signature faceted, polished, and grained Grande Seiko hands and indices, beautifully rendered, a hand-assembled dial. I'll also say that 40 millimeters in stainless steel with a full bracelet, you get what you pay for here. Plus the automatic caliber 9S86, 36,000 vibrations per hour, so Zenith El Primero style. Hand-regulated, hand-assembled to keep chronometer or ISO 3159 time. Superb power reserve of 55 hours in spite of the high beat rate. You've got the GMT, you've got hacking, you've got a date, you've got a lot with this timepiece. And on top of all of that, 6,500 US, you can compare that to 8,450 for a standard Rolex GMT Master 2. And I really think with this watch you come out ahead in content, special interest value and feature content, hand assembly, backstory. I don't think there's anything that would make me choose the Rolex over this unless I had to go 100 meters underwater. Jason, what do you think of this piece, and what do you think of Grande Seiko generally?
Well, listen, you don't have to sell me on Seiko. I love Seiko. My whole life I've worn Seikos. Grande Seiko is that much more grand. I mean, there are fantastic pieces. Build quality, I generally really enjoy when people call and inquire about Grande Seiko because that means I get to go play with the Grande Seikos. You know, I would certainly spend the money on this piece. The green dial on this, I think, is a green that'll last forever. It's not a trend. This specific piece, that GMT movement, I really, really like this watch, and I think you should buy one now.
Yeah, this is a great piece. And a limited edition, I think 700 is a good read. I think every one of them will find a happy home. And I love the green accents of the GMT hand and the printing on the dial. Super, super cool. Well done, Grande Seiko. Okay, so from green to a watch that will leave you green with envy. FP Journe Chronometre Souverain Holland and Holland. Guys, this is an interesting fusion of super premium brands. Holland and Holland, a little bit of a backstory here. It's a ultra, if we can use the term from horology, haute de gamme watchmaker in England. They have 4 global gun rooms, I want to say New York, London, Manchester, and Moscow, I think, and they're destination-style gun rooms. They're known for artisanally crafted double rifles and double shotguns. Generally, that's what they're renowned for. And when I say artisanally crafted, I mean handmade to order with engraving, customization, the works. Price is generally 6 figures to the high 6 figures. Exclusivity is assured, wait lists are guaranteed, and they hold 2 royal warrants as suppliers to British monarchy. Now here's the thing. This is going to be a 66-piece FP Journe special series with purchase on application and approval only. 66 pieces comprised of 2 groups with dials made of Damascus-style steel from 2 19th century Holland and Holland museum gun barrels. Now each watch will feature an engraved caseback in its 39mm stainless steel case with the serial number of the gun barrel from which the dial was made, as well as an FP Journe edition number among the 66. It will say Holland and Holland engraved in the caseback, but also on the rose gold caliber 1504 dual barrel chronometer grade movement. So very special indeed. This is one that's not going to blow minds with its price because it actually costs substantially less than a Holland and Holland gun with a recommended price, and believe me, everyone will pay the recommended price, of 45,000 Swiss francs. And I will say that Oddly enough, this 39mm 66-piece application steel exclusive has a precedent. Surprising Panerai feat number 2 of the day. Not only did it top Rolex in Jason's estimation during this or that, but Officine Panerai blazed the path for Jorn in uniting premium gun maker and horology. This niche market originally served by the Sealand for Purdy series back in 2004. The initial watches were engraved by J. Purdy & Sons, which is Holland & Holland's Richemont-owned rival back in 2004. Since then, I should say they featured literal hunter cases where the image of the big game opened up to reveal a bespoke dial. Jason, these were great pieces. Have you ever had one of these buying or selling?
Yeah, I believe we have one now at Vacheron. I think we have the Eagle available. I've held maybe 2 or 3. They're fantastic pieces. It's a watch. I mean, the hunter case is nice. It opens up. That I would just sit there and stare at the engraving the whole time.
Now let me bring back the Holland & Holland FP Journe real quick, guys, with the graphic, because this is a special piece. When you see the dial of this watch, at first glance, 2 things spring forward. First, it's time only, unlike the conventional Chronometre Souverain. So while the theme of it may be quite subtle and the engraving is all on the case back, the dial features the spectacular waves from the carbides of the Damascus steel, and the layout of the dial is unique to this model. And Jason, I think apart from the 2-hand arrangement, which is special, you could probably tell us a little bit about what Damascus steel absolutely is, because I only know the term.
Well, sure. I think, first of all, this piece in particular, I mean, that dial is gorgeous. You know, it's a steep price tag for a stainless steel watch, but when you think about how exclusive it's really going to be in a limited piece, it really speaks to what the market's going to be on that piece. If you get one of these, it's not going to move. These guys are going to hold these watches for a long time. So Damascus in general is essentially just folded steel. Blood, sweat, and tears go into these guys folding Damascus, and it's just hundreds and hundreds of layers of folding the same steel. Over and over again, you get a unique pattern, but you're basically building the steel up to more than it originally was and folding all kinds of different types of minerals, and you're building a carbon structure in the steel, which is stronger. So, you know, not that it necessarily plays to, you don't really need dial strength, but it's certainly beautiful to look at.
First of all, it's a tribute to both companies, Holland & Holland for being willing to sacrifice the barrel itself, and also FP Journe with their proprietary dial manufacturer. At Cadronier, they make all of their own dials in Geneva. So to be able to take Damascus steel, which is fairly unyielding, and also in its grain structure fairly delicate, to take it, make a dial out of it, and not lose the essential form that Jason mentioned, the layers and the character and the textures and the colors, really impressive on the part of FP Journe. This is a watch that, again, you buy on approval and you keep for life. I don't expect to ever see these on the market short of, I don't know, someone's kid putting it up for sale when he dies and is long gone. The only case I can see of this coming to market. This is one that you buy and hold. On the other hand, if you do have a watch to sell, remember, Jason is a watch buyer first and foremost, and I want to leave you with that thought for the weekend, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for sticking with us. I do want to answer one last question that's come up, and I'm going to leave it to Jason to take us away. What do you think of the Bamford collaboration with LVMH brands Tag Heuer and Zenith? Who benefits more, and is it sustainable in the long run?
I think it's sustainable. I find Bamford to be kind of a cool brand because they do warranty the work that they do, and they do have the ability to refinish those pieces. So as far as, I think the biggest stigma with an all-black watch is what's going to look like in 2 years. So if you're working with a company like Bamford, who gives you a superior coating to begin with, I think the way that they do the process, it's a superior product. And 2, if you scratch the watch, if you wear it day in and day out, which, to be honest, the all-black watch should probably be worn every day in that sportier nature, then you can have it refinished. I like the idea of being able to access Bamford as a company in a brand that's not Rolex.
Okay. Yeah,
so
I could see that. And warranted.
Yeah, and I'd go with the Zenith before the Tag, to be honest. But I think either way is a good option to get in on something that's very exclusive in normally a very high-end price tag, but you're getting in on the same company, the same warranty on the coating, in a much smaller price tag.
I think my verdict is that it's good for the customer because you get more options, and I think it's great for Bamford because this is sort of like their coming out party and becoming officially official with factory blessing. I think in the long run, it's going to be a wash for LVMH brands. I think it'll help a little bit in the short term, but I think that the fundamental strength of TAG Heuer is its great heritage. I think its existing fan base of Heuer devotees who are really driving up the vintage market, and the value that it offers across its model lines. And the strength of Zenith is its unrivaled manufacturer pedigree, its ability to do anything with a watch from artisanal crafts to watchmaking and engineering. And I think those brands are going to rise on the strengths of the fundamentals, with the Bamford thing being kind of an aside. I don't see it being a major factor one way or another, but great for Bamford, great for the customer, and a nice option to have out there. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Youssef, I see your question. Would I get a Bremont Airco or an IWC Pilot Mark 18? I'd get the Bremont because I think what's inside it is a higher grade of ETA-based caliber. And I also think that, frankly, you're going to get a slightly physically tougher watch with the Bremont in terms of the face-hardened steel and the water resistance. I think it's just a little hale and hardier, and I think that you're getting a better caliber based on an ETA inside. Thank you guys for joining us so much. Again, Tim at Watch You Want, send me your questions for Monday Mailbag. We're always responsive to them. Jason, always responding to your calls, always interested in buying your watch. I'm Tim, he's Jason, this is Watch You Want, they're the amigos, no longer three. You guys are the reason we're here, and thanks for logging on.